The news day continues here on One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. Individuals aged 10 to 65 years old in the areas under modified general community quarantine will be allowed to leave their homes starting February. This after the IATF approved recommendations to relax age-based restrictions in MGCQ areas. Authorities remind the public that those below 10 years old and those over 65 are still required to remain in their residences at all times. The IATF notes that it's up to local governments under GCQ whether they will also adjust their age-based protocols. The UP OCTA research team says COVID-19 infections in the country may reach 540,000 by the end of the month, yet the virus reproduction rate increases in the following days. So far, the group notes that the R0, or the reproduction rate of COVID-19 in the NCR, has gone down to 1.09 from 1.15 in January 17. OCTA research member Dr. Guido David says fluctuations with this number will dictate how many new cases will be logged in the country before January ends.
The reproduction number is about the same, more or less, right now. It will reach about 530,000. If it increases slightly, which is possible, it could go up to 540,000. If it decreases, maybe to 1 or less than 1, it could go down to 525,000.
Meanwhile, the Health Department is observing a plateauing of COVID-19 cases in the NCR. Epidemiology Bureau Specialist Dr. Alethea de Guzman says the 2-week case count for Metro Manila has remained at the 5,000 level. She says wild spikes are now being seen in other regions like the Cordilleras and Caraga, along with regions 1, 2, 3, 7, 10, and 11.
Though meron pong pagtaas sa NCR, which are the blue bars, yung pong pagtaas ay mas marked in the regions outside of NCR. Nakita naman talaga natin na itong holiday season, maraming nagsiuwian pa rin, or even if we have been advising not to have gatherings, there were really those na nag-celebrate ng kanilang Christmas party.
Only about 7 in 10 Filipino families received cash aid from the government amid the pandemic. That's according to the latest SWS survey conducted in November. The 69% figure obtained from the latest poll is relatively flat compared to the 71% recorded in the September survey and the 72% logged back in July. This means that the number of social amelioration beneficiaries likely did not increase, even after the government rolled out 2 tranches of its financial aid program for those affected by the lockdowns. Here are other COVID-19 related stories from around the world. Argentina's President Alberto Fernandez has received his first dose of the Russian Sputnik V vaccine. This after regulators in Argentina approved its use for people over the age of 60. 64-year-old Fernandez was immunized at the Posadas Hospital in Buenos Aires. The country's vaccination campaign started last month, and its first stage prioritizes essential workers and the elderly. Meanwhile, a vaccine shortage is reported in New York City. Officials say 15 COVID-19 vaccination hubs in the city are postponing all first dose appointments. And over in Washington, Dr. Anthony Fauci is back in the White House briefing room. Fauci, the leading infectious disease expert in the U.S., was tasked by newly minted President Joe Biden to give an update on the COVID-19 pandemic. This after Fauci was largely sidelined in the recent months by the previous administration. The doctor says he is now ready to move on from what happened in the past months and start working with an administration that acts based on science and evidence.
One of the things that was very clear as recently as about 15 minutes ago when I was with the president is that one of the things that we're going to do is to be completely transparent, open, and honest. If things go wrong, not point fingers, but to correct them, and to make everything we do be based on science and evidence.
Residents of Barangay San Rafael in Rodriguez, Rizal are blaming the nearby quarrying operations for the recent landslide that hit their area. To give us more updates on the ground, we have Justine Punsalang. She's reporting to us live from Rodriguez, Rizal. Justine, how are the residents coping with the aftermath of the landslide?
Charles, residents of the landslide site here in Sitio AC in Barangay San Rafael in Rodriguez, Rizal, took it upon themselves to start the clearing operation because it took hours for the local government of Rodriguez to come to the area. There are no casualties or injuries, fortunately. However, traffic was halted because of the sheer amount of debris brought about by the landslide. According to the residents, they heard what seemed to be stones rolling off the Parawagan mountain last night after 2 consecutive days of raining. They also felt a rise in the temperature as the evening went on. At around 2:15 in the morning, the rumbling at the mountainside intensified, followed by the sound of big rocks falling down. Romel Vega was unfortunately not with his family when the landslide occurred. Only his wife and 3 children were inside the house. Good thing, though, he said, that the beams and walls of their homes were strong enough to withstand the almost car-sized rock that fell outside their kitchen. Although in shock, his wife managed to get all 3 children out and seek refuge at the neighbor's house. Beside Vega's home, 2 other houses were flattened by the landslide, but luckily no one was home when it happened. Residents blamed quarrying in the area for the incident. They said in the previous years, there have been other landslides that caused a few deaths. Residents said that the quarrying was halted during the then DENR Secretary Gina Lopez's term in office. Although the quarrying has already stopped, they are certain that it caused enough damage to the mountain for landslides to continuously occur. According to Barangay Chairman Aaron Alvarez, the local government of Rodriguez was not remiss in reminding residents of Sitio AC that the area is landslide prone. However, many of them were not able to find a different place to live at, so they decided to stay there. Alvarez also said that the residents signed a waiver wherein they acknowledged the dangers of staying in Sitio AC and that the LGU is no longer liable should calamities such as landslide occurs. Charles, according to Barangay Chairman Alvarez, the local government of Rodriguez is now facilitating the permanent relocation of the residents of Sitio AC. They are just coordinating with the National Housing Authority. Meanwhile, at 8 a.m. this morning, the MDRRMO of Rodriguez finally arrived to take the rocks, trees, and other debris from the landslide. Charles?
Thank you. That was Justine Ponsalang reporting from Rodriguez, Rizal. President Duterte expressed full support to the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region, or BARMM, on Thursday. Duterte led the second anniversary commemoration of the establishment of the Muslim-led Bangsamoro region, which authorities had hoped to bring in peace after decades of infighting. The president says he has given marching orders to all relevant government agencies to give their full support to the region through continued assistance.
We remain as enthusiastic as ever for what the future holds for the Bangsamoro people. Together, let us continue to find common ground in achieving our shared aspirations for economic and self-sufficiency, genuine development, and lasting peace in our home region of Mindanao.
Heads up, commuters! LRT2 reopens its Santolan-Anonas stations today after over a year of closure. To give us details, we have with us JC Cosico. He's reporting live from Pasig. JC, good morning. What do you have for us?
Charles, full train services of the LRT2 from Recto Station in Manila to Santolan Station here in Pasig have finally resumed today. As early as 5 p.m., commuters started to arrive here at the Santolan Station to catch their train ride. Some passengers are delighted with the reopening as they no longer have to transfer rides anymore. The stations of Katipunan and Anonas also resumed operations today. Recall that these 3 stations were closed since October 2019 after a power rectifier caught fire. The management says technical procurement issues and the pandemic hampered repair works. Power supply remains temporary. That's why trains speed at these newly opened stations is at only 30 kilometers per hour from the previous 60 to 70 kilometers per hour. Train headway is also longer at 14 minutes from the previous 7 minutes. A one-way ride from Recto to Santolan will also take you around 30 to 35 minutes from the previous 20 to 25 minutes. Commuters were told to come early so they could get to their destinations on time. The last train trip here at Santolan Station will be at 8:30 p.m., while the last train trip from Recto Station in Manila will be at 9 p.m. LRT2 also announced that its stations in Marikina and Antipolo will be open to the public on April 26. Here's what the LRTA spokesperson and some passengers have to say.
Unang-unang naging problema natin dyan is yung procurement process natin. Ang isa sa mga naging major hurdle natin dyan is sino yung kukunin natin na contractor. Kasi masyadong specialized, masyadong technical yung trabahong gagawin. So, walang ready na available na contractor to do it. Na eventually, nagkaroon tayo ng mga technical issues doon sa procurement. So, na-delay ito ng konti hanggang sa abutan na tayo ng pandemic.
Noong close pa yung Santolan Station, gano'ng kahirap yung biyahe papuntang Maynila?
Napakahirap. Ang hirap kasi, mahirap kasi, unang-una pandemic, nakakatakot ma-expose.
Okay.
Pero wala naman choice kasi kailangan natin kumayod, magtrabaho. So, mahirap talaga siya nung wala alay.
Tapos ngayon, nabukas na siya.
Naku, sobrang sayang-saya.
Bakit na?
Kasi syempre, from Santolan na to Recto, sobrang magaang na yung oras. I mean, hindi na ganun kahirap.
Charles, health measures are still in place here at the LRT2 while passengers undergo the regular thermal scanning and disinfection while talking inside the train remains banned. Back to you.
Thanks for that, JC Cosico reporting to us live from Pasig. And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later at 1 p.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Just register for a free account at www.signalplay.com so you can stream One News live anytime and anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. We are One News.